This is Breathe California's TV show, Environmental Concerns. We're going to be talking about smoking programs with long-term activist Randy Uang. Stay tuned, and we're going to be talking about how well California has done on reducing its smoking and any of a variety of other things that Randy's worked on after this 30-second public service announcement.
I have asthma, and so asthma, I can't do that many sports because I wheeze and then I have to take my inhaler. I can't do a lot of things other kids can do. What I learned at asthma camp is how to treat your asthma and don't hold back if you have asthma. Breathe California has made it easier for me to play sports and do other things that I couldn't do before.
Welcome back. I'm Terry Trumbull, a volunteer for Breathe California. I'm talking today with Randy Uang, who's been involved with a lot of stuff that Breathe California has done historically. Breathe California is the lung health organization for the state, and this show tries to work and mention and discuss for you preventative things, but we may end up talking about a lot of things related to curing damage from smoking. So, Randy, why don't you start off by talking about your role in Breathe California in the past?
Sure, nice to be able to join your show, Terry. And just wanted to say that I am Randy Uang, and I have been either a staff member or a volunteer with Breathe California since 2016. And I've worked a lot in areas of educating people about tobacco, both youth and also young adults, and also helping adults who are smoking to quit or reduce the amount of smoking that they are doing among those adults who'd like to, and also a lot of other general educational efforts about tobacco.
So all of those efforts, have they been successful, at least looking at it from a number of people that are smoking perspective?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of the efforts are definitely successful. I mean, ones that when I was working in Breeze's office that was in San Francisco, we really focused a lot on trying to prevent the uptake of smoking among young people. And between the efforts of me and my colleagues, focusing on that part of the Bay Area, by the time 2016, 2017 rolled around, the smoking rates among youth in the San Francisco schools was really quite low. And then, of course, since Breathe does work in so many areas of the Bay Area, the smoking rates in different parts of the Bay Area and different cities obviously vary quite a bit, but there definitely have been a lot of educational efforts to reduce the efforts to reduce the amount of smoking that youth have done in schools.
So you mentioned you've been involved with a variety of programs. Could you just talk about one or two of those?
Sure. A lot of it is working with students who are already smoking, young people who have started smoking at age 13, 14, 15, and to actually have an intervention to work with students to be able to reduce and eventually, quit use of nicotine products, whether regular cigarettes or electronic cigarettes. And a lot of the work of my colleagues, going to schools specifically, really helped to work on either one-day individual interventions with young people in high schools, or longer series of programs over several weeks to try to help young people who are already smoking to come up with strategies and plans to be able to quit. I could say a little bit more if you'd like.
Please go on.
Sure. So some of those efforts really involved kind of a series, working with the schools to set up a series of, often, weekend type sessions to be able to work with the students to be able to come up with these sorts of plans. And a lot of them were sort of modeled on what we know about quitting smoking for the general population, but really focused on approaches and tactics that would really work better with youth. In some ways the vocabulary, in some ways the thinking about things. So a lot of those efforts are really focused on helping young people to stop using tobacco products that they were already using. I could also say a little bit more about the preventive approaches that we've also taken.
Yeah, please do. My personal bias is that I think we don't spend enough time on preventing damage to people's bodies.
I would agree. And the adage that we've all heard about, that an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure, in terms of tobacco really makes a lot of sense, because it's a product that, especially for young people, is so addictive, but also that a lot of young people underestimate the addictiveness of tobacco products. Any efforts that can go into preventing youth from smoking really pay off so much more, both in terms of time for all of us involved, families, parents, teachers, our community at large, and also in terms of the health impacts. Being able to keep kids from even starting to smoke really is just so much more impactful than trying to undo the damage that that tobacco products cause to young people, and then especially to people later on if they continue to smoke through adulthood. So yeah, as an example of the preventive programs that we've done, and I've various staff throughout Breathe, whether based in the San Jose office or in other areas of the Bay Area. And where I did most of my work the first several years was focused in San Francisco and on the peninsula in San Mateo County. We really did go have a real focus on prevention, working with a lot of schools, school districts up and down the peninsula, and then also specific schools in the San Francisco School District, to give presentations in high schools and also, importantly, middle schools, to be able to let young people know about not just the dangers of tobacco products, including regular cigarettes and electronic cigarettes, but also the sort of tactics that tobacco companies were using to try to get young people to start using tobacco products. A focus on what tobacco companies were doing actually was really much more impactful seeming to students, at least in my view, than just talking about the health impacts. A lot of young people don't really like being told by a bunch of adults about what's good for them or not, even though adults often know from experience or knowledge to some degree. Really, though, the impact of kids hearing just the sorts of things that folks in tobacco company boardrooms are hatching up to try to advertise to young people on online media, for example, that really seems to be what really gets the attention of young people, and to help them understand that, wow, we are actually just being preyed upon by tobacco companies. And that in turn really helps to prevent young people to start from starting to smoke.
Well, the drop off in California and many states has been so big that the tobacco industry has had to take steps to try to find other ways to get people to start smoking. And a big part of that seems, from what I've seen Breathe California doing, is making it be cool to smoke, whether it be cigarettes, vaping, or e-cigarettes. You involved with any of those kind of activities?
Yeah, in fact, that actually really ended up being the focus of a lot of our work in Breathe California. In the late 2010s, we saw that the smoking rate for just tobacco products in general, and in particular regular cigarettes, declined with the efforts of so many people over the 1990s, 2000s, and early 2010s, such that the smoking rate among youth in California got down to as low as, I think, somewhere in the range of 4 to 5% among high school students. And so by 2016, it seemed as if the efforts of tobacco control and prevention folks really were helping to protect youth a lot, especially, in San Francisco. There was a sense that, hey, this is quite good progress. But then in 2016, 17, and then really in the 2017, 2018 school year, there are some things that were happening promoted by tobacco companies that really put this into reverse. In particular, Juul e-cigarette company had set up shop in San Francisco and had San Francisco as its headquarters, and did advertising to young people and young adults in a variety of markets, but the Bay Area is one of those markets, and San Francisco being the city in the Bay Area that is seen as a very densely urban area with a lot of attraction for young people, was one area where month after month in that 2017-18 school year, people really began, parents, teachers, school, principals really began to say, hey, what is going on? Suddenly, after years of declining tobacco use rates among our youth, wow, suddenly there are so many young people in our schools who are beginning to take up tobacco products.
So we've reached roughly the halfway point, Randy. So we'll be back in 30 seconds after this public service announcement.
The different therapeutic methods that we can help our very low socioeconomic status clients who have no alternatives, no anything, and there's still about 15 different resources we got out of this, that if you have no resources, no service connection, you can still get aid.
That they are connected, one encourages the other, and that the process of change from backing off from the tobacco is the same as backing off from any other addictive drug.
Everyone can benefit from this training that we just were offered today. I would not take it back.
Welcome to Environmental Concerns, sponsored by Breathe California, the lung health organization in California. My guest is Randy Uang, who, like me, has been involved in efforts as a volunteer, and in his case also as an employee, right? You worked in San Francisco, and where else did you work for Breathe California?
Yeah, I worked in the San Francisco office of Breathe California from 2016 through the beginning of 2019. And throughout 2019 began to operate out of their San Jose-based headquarters, and focused broadly on large swaths of the Bay Area, kind of between San Jose, the peninsula, and San Francisco, and then also a little bit in the East Bay.
So those efforts include preventative efforts that Breathe California has done, for example, to get smoking banned in parks used by kids, or banned in apartments where they had ventilation problems and secondhand smoke would reach non-smokers?
Yeah, we definitely did a lot of preventive work, both in terms of trying to halt the rapid increase in tobacco use that was spurred on by e-cigarettes, including flavored e-cigarettes, and then also flavored cigars. Breathe California really helped to advocate for some policies in the East Bay, in San Francisco, the Peninsula, and in the South Bay to deal with issues related to e-cigarettes, flavored tobacco products more generally, in order to help prevent youth from starting to smoke. Since we know that about 4/5 of young people who use tobacco products started with some kind of flavored tobacco product, 80 to 90%, somewhere in that range. And then also, like you mentioned, trying to help reduce the negative impact on others that tobacco product use has in apartment buildings and other multi-unit housing. We really help to advocate for those sorts of policies up and down the peninsula, and then also in the South Bay.
So I think
a
it's
lot on the
particular.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's pretty significant that you laid out what I consider to be a rationale to get people smoking, because it is addictive by flavoring it. And presumably after you're addicted through the use of flavored tobacco products, you don't need the flavoring anymore. You'll just be addicted. Excuse me.
Yeah, the role of flavors in tobacco products really is something that tobacco companies started to use after a lot of flavors were no longer allowed to be put in cigarettes. A lot of flavored cigars then came on the market in the 2000s and early 2010s, and then with e-cigarettes coming on to the market in a big way in the late 2010s. So many of those came in such a range of flavors.
So if I recall correctly, you're living in Santa Cruz now?
Yeah.
And what do you do there? I assume you're not working for Breathe California.
No, I'm not working for Breathe California directly in any way, but I still, as a volunteer, like to contribute. I could say stuff about my volunteering with Breathe California or my work outside of Breathe California, whatever you'd like to hear about.
Well, let me start off by saying Randy and I are both volunteers for Breathe California. And if you need any information about your lung health, go to their website, which is listed under both of our names. Or if you want to volunteer like Randy and I, just give them a call at 408-998-5865. So as a volunteer, what kind of things have you done?
Mostly keeping Breathe California involved in efforts in the Santa Cruz area, and also being able to help share with our main office in San Jose, the particular issues and focuses that folks in Santa Cruz really care about when it comes to tobacco.
Yeah, that's real significant. In 2006, Breathe California's 6 chapters in California left the American Lung Association, and getting enough finances, so feel free to send us checks, it's been a problem. And so there was a merger of the Monterey Bay Area group with that in San Jose, and so both of them work together to do things. And I think where you used to work in San Francisco is also merged in.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's great to be part of Breathe California, both as an employee in the past and then also as a volunteer now, and to be able to see Breathe California's work in so many parts of the Bay Area and the Central Coast. I mean, there are so many different things that go on in different cities with, the youth tobacco use epidemic. And then also, the way that it impacts people in different cities in different ways based on how much of the population is living in apartment buildings and other sorts of multiple unit housing. Those sorts of focuses that Breathe California has really, shifts depending on what's really the most important in particular parts of the Bay Area. So, for example, in San Francisco, when we saw e-cigarettes really reverse the progress in keeping kids safe from tobacco, or a lot of the work on the peninsula, um, where people were really bothered by drifting secondhand smoke in apartment buildings. Uh, or in the South Bay, also really a lot of issues related to um, tobacco use among kids, with the role of flavors, but a whole variety of different policies that Breathe California has worked on there, and educational efforts more generally about tobacco. And then in Santa Cruz, one of the things that Breathe California has been able to help out on um, is issues with flavored tobacco, but also issues, we're increasingly trying to, put a little bit more focus on issues of drifting secondhand smoke in outdoor dining areas, um, and also tobacco litter. And these are two issues that I think for folks who are living in Santa Cruz and on the Central Coast really seem to be issues of concern that resonate with folks, just because the Central Coast area and Santa Cruz in particular has such nice areas for outdoor dining, but it can often mean that people that are sitting somewhere enjoying food and a meal, that where suddenly smoke can kind of drift over into those dining areas. And that has impacts on the sort of experience that residents have and visitors, in a way that affects the sort of vitality of like the experience that folks have as both residents and as tourists. And then also the issue of tobacco litter really also dramatically affects the Central Coast, because it is a coastal area, and so much of the economy really depends on a healthy environment that people can enjoy. Nice clean coast. Tobacco litter really impinges on that.
So recently, I was out with a beach cleanup program with Santa Cruz Mayor Fred Keeley and the Santa Cruz Warriors. And I was kind of astounded that 98% of the litter we picked up was cigarette butts. And that area, any place on the coast, is such an important part of the enjoyment of people throughout Northern California, and the economy in Santa Cruz, that it's real significant stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it is one of these, we may have all already heard about tobacco butts being one of the most littered item, if not the most littered type of item on the planet. And with the waste from tobacco products often come, having this sort of plastic kind of remnant that just gets scattered all over the beaches. I will say, it's quite timely that we're talking about tobacco waste, because Coastal Cleanup Day is every September, and I believe that coming up, it's going to be in just a week and a half or so from the day that we're talking today. It should be on Saturday, September 23rd, if I've got the date correct. And kind of like you, I'd like to say, yeah, last year I remember participating in the Coastal Cleanup Day here in Santa Cruz, and I joined some others at the main beach and helped clean up a lot of areas of the beach, and also near the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. And that's an area that is, it's just a big draw for, both residents and tourists. And so it is one of these places where we did find, the beaches were actually fairly clean, the day of, but there are a lot of people helping to clean up, the beach areas there. But one thing is that just immediately next to the beaches, there was quite a lot of tobacco litter in the sort of areas right adjoining the beaches, where one could easily imagine a lot of that in the next storm washing out to the oceans, or washing into the creeks, or washing into the beaches. And so it was just a reminder that so many areas in Santa Cruz really do get affected by tobacco waste, and Boardwalk we definitely picked up. I mean, it felt like easily 1,000 cigarette butts in just a short amount of time. At some point, I stopped counting because there's just so many.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. And I can't imagine being with my kids, so I might add, are grown up now, but going to the beach in Santa Cruz County, which I did a lot, and having them turn up a cigarette butt while they're playing with a pail of sand. It's a real turnoff. Well, we're down to about a minute left. Do you have some message you want to leave us with?
I would say that based on my involvement with Breathe California, there's a lot of ways for any interested person to help tackle issues of tobacco use. And whether it's being involved in local beach cleanups to really highlight the impact of tobacco waste in, beaches and rivers and streams, or whether it's helping to go to schools and to communicate with young people and young adults, in colleges about tobacco and what tobacco companies are doing to try to get young people hooked on products. There are just lots of ways to get involved. And I would say Breathe California is a great way for individuals in the community to be able to be part of that.
To make a difference. So we're out of time. We've been talking with Randy Uang, volunteer for Breathe California, and we hope you can copy Randy and make as much a difference as he has. See you next week with a new show.